Time for another episode of Brio TV, the podcast. I'm your host, Bill Brio. Stay tuned, Hearties. Have we got a show for you? All right, my guest today is Kevin McGarry, who stars as Nathan Grant on When Calls the Heart, which is in its 10th season on Super Channel and on Hallmark. Kevin, thank you very much for joining me today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
It's because I know the series has already been renewed for an 11th season, right?
We're shooting the 11th season right now, actually.
That's amazing.
This is my day off that we are. I was just there yesterday. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it. I know it's an intense show, and all of it's on location in nearby Langley, BC. Right?
That's it.
I've been on that set. Many years ago when the series started, I had a chance to tour it. It's like Disneyland's main street, isn't it? It's like a fully realized town.
It's basically Splash Mountain. It's there's a water tower and everything's built out of wood. And it's the closest thing to like an outdoor studio that I've shot at. The locations are always the same. It's this little pioneer town.
Yeah.
What did you say? 11th, working on the 11th season. Kudos to the directors to find new ways to shoot.
Yeah.
The same streets and the same buildings. And although we do have a couple new things that were built this year. I can't really give any spoilers, but yeah.
Well, that seems to be the history of the show. They're always adding a church or a blacksmith shop or a hotel or something.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. We got a pharmacy in season 9 or a soda shop, pharmacy/soda shop.
Wow.
And what else did they built a derrick for a little while. We had the kind of the oil storyline going on for a while when we lit that thing on fire, which is pretty cool. But yeah, the whole, it's this massive plot of kind of like farmland that they're able to kind of build. And actually the big thing that happened in season 10 was that they built the hot springs, which are essentially a group of hot tub pools that they kind of, put these rocks around. And the hot springs are kind of the new thing in town.
That's very cool. Or it's very hot. I'm not sure.
Very, very hot. It's very, very, very tepid. Tepid? Tepid. Very tepid.
And what is this, your 4th or 5th season on the show?
Well, I came on, I was just talking to Erin about this the other day. 6th I came on. So what are we? Yeah, this is 11. Yeah, fifth season.
Wow. That's amazing. And the town there where it's shot, I know that for a few years prior to COVID, they did open the set to some Hardies, right? Some of the fans of the show have been touring. Do they still do that?
Well, we did that. So Brian Bird, who is the original, I think he directed some. Him and Michael Langdon both directed the first season. I think they kind of co-directed it. They've since kind of stepped away a little bit, and we have different directors, but they're still executive producers on it. And Brian runs the Hardys family reunion, which kind of happens every year, which is, I think, what you're talking about, where the Hardys get together. And because of COVID, we had to. Usually, it happens at like a hotel in Vancouver, and on a Saturday, everybody kind of goes and does a panel, and you meet the cast, and then they get to drive the Hardys that come to the reunion, get to drive out there and see it. But last year it was all done out there because of COVID. It was kind of done in an outdoor tent and everything.
Right.
So yeah, we were still able to allow, open up the town on a weekend for them to kind of come and explore and take pictures. And it really is kind of like a museum when we're not shooting there, because the sets are and not like the sets are built, but they, like I said, it's a pioneer town. Like you walk into the jail and it's the jail. It's not, they don't have to move any risers. They don't have to, build the set when we shoot in there. So it's always ready to go.
Yeah.
So it's fun for them.
These are fully realized sets, aren't they? They're built right in. The interior is the same as, I thought it was really, really cool to walk around. In fact, when I was there, they had a stagecoach that they had brought in from another show, I think, but it was a genuine Stagecoach. I don't know if that's something they still use, but I remember
we do. We still, I mean, there's a bit of a change now as the show kind of moves into the 20s, and there's more cars now. We have more,
nice.
They've got the original Fords, Model Ts. I think we've got like 5 of them now. And the Stagecoach was replaced with a taxi stand. So it's actually a car now we have. I mean, the Stagecoach is still there. We still use it for things, but they've put more cars on the road now.
That's cool. Now, let's go back to your roots. I believe you're from, is it Kincardine, Ontario?
That's it.
Now,
do you know it?
Well, my family have had a cottage on the Bruce Peninsula up a little town north of Sauble Beach called Oliphant. And so I've been up there all my life and always go down to Southampton, Port Elgin.
Yeah, Port Elgin. Port Elgin was our Shelbyville to our Springfield. That's a Simpsons reference. But I remember playing baseball against Port Elgin, and I had that whole strip from Kincardine, Port Elgin, Southampton, the Southampton flea market. I don't know if it still happens, but it was just a wonderful spot to grow up, and small towns all along the Bruce, and even like Sauble Beach. We frequent that a lot, but not a huge place compared to like Grand Bend or Wasaga or something like that. But it was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful sunsets too. Beautiful sunsets.
Stunning sunsets. And I've spent a lot of time at the Sauble Beach Dairy Queen.
Yeah. And I think I also did as well.
Where did you first get the bug to become an actor?
It was there in Kincardine. I've said this before that, I always liked attention. So maybe that's what it was, what started it. But, in high school, I ended up getting into a drama class in grade 9 and then, kind of half-assing it a little bit. Like, it was really fun I just couldn't believe I was getting credit for kind of goofing around and playing a fool. And then when it came to a point where I had to decide if, what I wanted to do when I left high school. And I was like, I'm really enjoying this. And my parents, out of lucky ignorance, really didn't know, really wasn't aware of just how hard an actor's life would be. Like, they were just like, yeah, follow your dreams, whatever you want to do. So then I ended up doing a theater school, and that's kind of where a lot of it really kind of kicked in. And I was lucky enough to join like a rep theater company after that. And I learned a lot from watching these really great Canadian actors. Yeah.
Like, where did you go to? George Brown and Fanshawe College, I think. And
George Brown, I did screenwriting, and then Fanshawe was the theater school. It was a brand new program, with a lot of the actors from the Stratford Theatre Festival. Because it was in London, Ontario, which was so close to Stratford. So they were like, we had all these teachers that, were on the main stage, and, and all these guest directors would come in and just like invaluable information. And I was just really lucky that I got to be part of all that.
And you did some work at Stratford as well?
Shaw Festival,
Niagara.
Which is Niagara on the Lake. Yeah.
That's kind of cool. Well, what did you learn? You must have found some people there who inspired you.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, so when I was there, Jackie Maxwell was the artistic director. And what she was doing at the time was bringing in these kind of contemporary plays, because at the time before that, it was very driven on Bernard Shaw, like a lot of his plays. Right. And they still kept that, of course. I mean, that is the festival. But she really started kind of stretching the mandate a little bit, elasticizing it, I guess, to make it more about like his contemporaries, other playwrights that challenged the same ideas that he did. So we got to update and got to do these contemporary plays. And I got to be, my first play was this play called Come Back Little Sheba, which is by William Inge. And it was just, to watch, the lead of it was an actress named Corinne Coslow and Rick Reed. And to watch them every night was just like a masterclass. It was incredible to be part of that show and, really see the power that, a stage actor has. Yeah, it was incredible.
Wow, good for you. When we come back, more from When Calls the Heart's Kevin McGarry. Well, you've loved her on Mary Makes It Easy. Now she's cooking up a whole new series called The Good Stuff with Mary Berg. What's it all about, Mary?
It's called The Good Stuff with Mary Berg, and when we were talking about it and kind of developing the idea and working through what it was actually going to look like, the main thing we kept coming back to is just filling people's lives up, and that doesn't mean with like always big flashy things, but just sharing stories from people doing good things from across Canada, sharing stories from people who are maybe more well-known who are doing good things. There will obviously still be food. Every day I'm gonna cook something up that you can make at home, have cook-alongs with different chefs, hopefully get some guests to cook along, because I want to convince people that anybody can actually cook. Wow. But I'm really excited to learn. I'm a lifelong trier, and I am so looking forward to learning from the different experts we're going to have on.
That's The Good Stuff with Mary Berg, weekdays at 10 a.m. on CTV. What's new this month on Super Channel? Well, for one thing, there's the new 6-episode Canada-Ireland original crime thriller, Clean Sweep. The series stars Charlene McKenna from Peaky Blinders and Barry Ward from Anne Boleyn. They play an Irish husband and wife. She's a supermom looking after 3 kids. He's a Galway detective. As he puts it, we make a good team. You're holding down the home front, me catching the bad guys. Trouble is, she hides a dark secret, and when a cold case is reopened, well, trouble strikes a little too close to home. Clean Sweep runs 1 episode a week, all month long on Super Channel Fuse, and can be streamed on demand each week following the broadcast. On the lighter side, Super Channel has new Season 10 episodes of When Calls the Heart running this month on Heart and Home. And remember, Super Channel, an all-Canadian service, is available via most cable providers across the country, as well as streaming live and on demand with Amazon Prime Video channels and Apple TV+. Here he is again, Kevin McGarry. And looking through your early TV credits, when did it start for you on television? What was your first gig?
Oh, I mean, the first gig was probably some dumb commercial.
That's all right. What was the commercial for?
Honestly, I think the very first commercial I ever booked was some like dumb non-union. I think it was for Canadian Idol. And I remember wondering if I could even audition for Canadian Idol at the time. I just didn't have the confidence, I guess. But I did those kind of stupid commercials that would just, pay the rent and maybe some money for the bar. But then after that, I think the big change was after I did a few seasons at the Shot Festival. I got a lead on a show called Open Heart, which was about a hospital and kind of 3 tiers. You had like the main doctors, the resident doctors, and the kind of the volunteers. And it was a Nickelodeon show, a show produced by a company called Epitome in Toronto. They are very famous with Degrassi. Yeah. So actually the Degrassi set was on one side of the street, and on the other side of the street, they built this hospital. And that was just, that was the first time I was part of something from, the roots, and was building it with the other actors. And I made a lot of friendships that are still, strong to this day on that show. And I just learned a lot, and really my confidence started building around that time.
I remember I've been on that set there where they shot Degrassi, and I think the LA Complex and a few other things. Yeah. LA Complex.
So actually when LA Complex got canceled, that's when they did Open Heart.
Nice.
So it was in the same, because it wasn't a hospital they built, but it was, the studio across the street. Yeah. So when LA Complex was canceled, that Open Heart was the next one that they built up, and it was, it was a lot of fun.
And I saw Man Seeking Woman was at the show. Michelle, you got any memories of that?
Just the Saturday Night Live cast members being in the background. So that show is written by a guy named Simon Rich, who was a writer for Saturday Night Live.
Right.
Also, like I don't know if they were writing partners, but I know they were friends. And he's with John Mulaney, and I'm a huge John Mulaney fan.
Yeah.
So then the Simon Rich, I guess he wrote a book, or like I don't know what it'd be like a collection of short stories on this idea of like, you know, man seeking, basically what the show is about.
Yeah.
And then Lorne Michaels helped him produce this show. And yeah, I got to do this. I got to guest on this episode as basically this like Indiana Jones adventurer character who threatens the relationship of Jay Baruchel and his girlfriend. And it was just, I remember I got the job and they were like, yeah, we were really sure you were going to have to bring like a stuntman down from LA to do this, but you were just so great. And it was just, you know, it was wacky and it was a different type of comedy, but it was also a lesson in comedy, knowing that you couldn't throw things away in the sense sometimes that you can in a drama that you know, like there's beats in comedy and they have to be hit. And, you know, if you say but instead of and, you know, they'd come out from the monitor and be like, actually it's and you're like, oh, okay, of course. Yes, like these jokes have been curated. It's not like, you know, they were changed, you know, 4 minutes before we shot this thing. So,
right.
So that was when I did Schitt's Creek 2 later. That was also another thing I remember.
Yeah.
I think Dan Levy, I was doing something, whatever the job was, but I was saying something. He came around the corner. He keeps saying this. It's this. It's like, oh, okay. So, you know, and again, just small little changes, but like there's a rhythm to it, and you know, you got to respect it.
That's probably Dan's dad's influence. You know, it's the old school comedy. You got to hit him with a punchy K, right? You got to
maybe. And what was fun about that was I got the job, and I went in for the read through, and they were all coming in from lunch, but you know, so I hadn't worked with anybody yet. I was just kind of sit at the table, and they were all coming in from lunch, and they were all dressed as their characters because they were shooting all morning. And all of a sudden, like, you know, Catherine O'Hara comes in dressed as Moira, and then Eugene Levy, and then here's a funny Eugene Levy story that I had. I used to work in a restaurant in Toronto, a fine dining, like kind of like Italian restaurant. And I waited on Eugene Levy once, and he was a very sweet man. You know, he's very funny, but also very kind. And he signed the bill, like at the end when I gave him the bill and the credit card, you know, he signed, you know, he did the tip and everything. It was great, but he didn't sign his name, and you need to have the signature of the name. So I had to chase Eugene Levy out of this restaurant because technically he didn't pay the bill. So I'm just running down the street in Toronto being like, Mr. Levy, you didn't pay your bill.
He was trying that old trick, huh?
Yeah. You know what? Now that I think about it, maybe he's just trying to be the nice, funny guy and slips out not paying his bill.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, good for you. Now, when you got to the point where you were, how did you become part of When Calls the Heart? Had you ever played a Mountie before?
No, never played a Mountie. I was on a show though called Heartland, which is, you know, I think it's one of the longest running shows in Canada on CBC.
Yeah.
And it was, you know, I got lucky on that one too. I think I was just supposed to be on for a couple episodes. And then they liked the cut of my jib or whatever. And then I got to stick around for three more seasons, really. But I learned how to ride on that show.
Nice.
And then I remember I was working on that show when the audition, you found out that they were looking to recast a lot of, the main people in When Calls the Heart. And I really didn't know this series. I knew it was on CBC because I think it played just before Heartland. Right. And as I've said this before too, but in my career, anything with heart in it, I tend to get the Open Heart, Heartland, When Calls the Heart, so I had they wanted to see me because I think at this time I'd done one movie for Hallmark, and I'd done a guest spot on a show called Signed, Sealed, and Delivered. Or it was a show, but at that time they were doing like these mini movies. So I guested on that with another woman named Brooke Nevin. And so I auditioned, just put myself on tape. And then they wanted to see another thing. So I did that as well. And then they wanted to fly me down so I could read with Erin, and kind of meet the team. And Heartland was like, unfortunately, you can't do it. Like, you're slammed all week. We can't let you out. So, they kind of just suck it up. You're like, it's not going to work out. And they said, okay, don't worry about it. And that was that. And then they kind of called and said, well, could you do a Zoom session with Erin? I was like, yeah, sure. So, we set it up similar to kind of what we're doing now. Wow. in the hotel that I was staying at in Calgary. And it was terrible. It was like, at wherever they were shooting at their Crown Media headquarters in LA, it was like, I must have been like a big face, like Big Brother on this giant TV screen, I think, in this boardroom that Erin was in. But the camera was set up at a different angle. So we actually weren't looking at each other. Like, it was,
oh God.
And it was weird. So they'd just be my big old face, like on the wall. And, I just think it was a mess. And, they said, okay, thanks. I was like, okay, thanks. Bye. But then I fully didn't get off. I guess sometimes, with the Zoom thing, you try to sign off, but you're still on. And I could hear they were bringing in some other actors. I was like, oh, get me off this before I hear, other people audition and read, please, So I got, I made it, got off in time. And then didn't hear anything for a few days. And then I guess they called and they said, look, we'll switch it around. So we'll go to Heartland's schedule and we can fly Kevin down when he's available. So I was like, oh, that's nice. So like, clearly, they wanted to cast it at a certain time, so they would wait. And then they flew me down, and I was staying at this hotel right across from the Crown Media building. And I get up in the morning to go down and do the audition, and I cross the street and I was like, this is a great sign. And then I get a call from Crown Media being like, hey, maybe we'll have to reschedule these fire trucks downstairs. And I was like, okay. So then I went back to the hotel, and then I get a call again saying, actually, about it, the problem's been fixed. We're sending somebody to pick you up. And, I'm waiting in the lobby, and Lori Loughlin walks in to pick me up. And I'm like, this is like a dream. Like, I'm sitting in, and I think the hotel was like an old, like 1960s kind of hotel. Like describing this to anybody else, it sounds like I'm describing a dream. Huh. I'm in this 1960s hunt club of a hotel, and Aunt Becky's there to pick me up and take me to an audition, and I'm like, okay. And so, yeah, I go over there and I meet her, and she's lovely. And then we go up and I meet the team and Erin and do the read through, or, we do the scene. And, again, it was kind of like in a boardroom, and I've said this story before, but like we're doing the audition, and there's somebody out in the hallway getting ice. That's all I remember, just hearing the ice machine the entire time, being like, why? How much ice does a person need? And then we kind of stopped, and, you could just see it wasn't like, it was fine, but I think people were like, I don't know. And then I think somebody was like, do you want to try it again? And I was like, yes, please. I'd love to try it again. And then we did it again, no ice. And I think Erin and I just kind of really connected on that one. And
that's great.
It felt great. And then, yeah, I headed back to the airport, and they called me in 3 hours, and they offered me the job.
That's fantastic. Erin Krakow, of course, we're talking about.
Yes.
She's was there from day one. And, you really represented a transition on the show coming in when you did. So it must have been heartening to get that kind of welcome and support from someone like her.
Yeah. And she is just like, she is the heart of that show. She wears so many hats already, she's not just like the lead actress of the show. She's really kind of progressed to executive producer, and she oversees a lot. She cares more than anybody really on that show. Not to say nobody cares, but she just like, that is her baby, and she's very careful with it, and she puts a lot of thought into it and time. And sometimes things really work out, and sometimes, there's heartbreak with, you don't have time for things, or money runs out and you can't do the thing you want to do. But, she's really curated that into a really special show. Point being that we're working on the 11th season right now.
Yeah,
it's pretty well.
It's fantastic. When we come back, more from When Calls the Heart's Kevin McGarry. What's happening this month on North America's fastest rising streaming service, Paramount Plus? Well, set phasers for stun as Paramount Plus heads boldly into a 4th season of Star Trek Lower Decks. New animated episodes are airing every Thursday. Launching September 8th, there's also a global event, a Star Trek Day special. Jerry O'Connell, the voice of Lower Decks Commander Jack Ransom, celebrates 50 years of Star Trek animation. Remember that Saturday morning cartoon series from the 70s featuring William Shatner and the original cast all reassembled and reanimated? As Spock would say, fascinating. And check out the Canadian-made movie, The End of Sex, a Paramount Plus exclusive starring Emily Hampshire and Jonas Chernick as a married couple who try to rekindle their relationship. As Picard would say, engage. And remember, with a mountain of entertainment to choose from, there is something for everyone on Paramount Plus. Well, we're here again talking with Emily Gagne from Hollywood Suite. Emily, it's September. This is the time of year, all the sports, there's hockey starting, baseball's on, football, and I understand Hollywood Suite is weighing in.
Oh yeah, we're kicking off the school season with sports on film. Movies like Slapshot, which is a new personal favorite. I know that sounds insane, but I just watched it for the first time. It still holds up. It's great. Field of Dreams, everyone's favorite. We've got the original Space Jam. Oh, and we have the premiere of 42 with the late, great Chadwick Boseman.
Yeah, no kidding. You know what? Don't tell anyone. I have never seen Slapshot.
What, Bill? That seems like your favorite movie.
I know. So now I have a chance to get caught up thanks to Hollywood Suite. So thank you for programming it. What else you got coming up in September?
We also have what we call September soundtracks. So if you're not into sports, we've got some great musicals and music movies. Everything from Purple Rain to Scott Pilgrim versus the World is on our service this month. And the last thing I wanted to mention, which is in neither collections, but it's a big deal to me, and it might be to you, listeners. We have Ishtar coming to the service. One of the worst movies ever, some say, and one of the best movies ever, others say, including my mom. So Ishtar is coming to Hollywood Suite September 9th. Tune in. Elaine May's famously disastrous comedy.
Well, there you have it. Emily's mom's favorite film, Ishtar, this month on Hollywood Suite. Thanks a lot, Emily.
Thanks, Bill.
And we're back with Kevin McGarry. All right, so we were talking, of course, about When Calls the Heart. Yes. First of all, you're playing a Mountie. What's the biggest advantage? Do you get, better treatment when you're crossing the border now? When you're playing a Mountie on television, what are the perks from playing a Mountie?
Oh man, I wish they let me take that uniform off set. I did a job. They had a spinoff show for a little while called When Hope Calls, which was a spinoff of When Calls the Heart. And a few of us in the cast did some spots on that show. And there was such secrecy with sending that, I guess not secrecy, but it just had to go through so many stages, sending the uniform from, British Columbia to where they shot that show in Northern Ontario, just because of, if anybody ever got a hold of that, mount, because it is basically the surge is real.
Yeah.
So no, they don't let me take that anywhere. Benefits? I don't know. I guess continuity of costume, because I'm always wearing those friggin' boots and the pants. The one nice thing is they took the jonipers in a little bit, which are the Mountie pants.
Yeah,
because they kind of stick out. They're not the most flattering pants in the world, right. So they kind of tapered them a little bit for me. And then the surge just kind of makes you constantly, kind of sit up straight, stand up straight. So I guess maybe the benefit would be authority. I don't know. I am envious of the guys that get to wear the suits and the suspenders and just the t-shirts and stuff like that. Whenever I can get in that, I'm like, oh, please. Because it's just, you feel it. And the gun belt's always riding up too, and they're always pulling it down because they want to make it look nice. But at the same time, it moves around on you. And then getting up on the horse with the thing too. Oh, it's a lot.
You do appear on the show in a suit, like you're not always in the Mountie crimson.
You're right.
Yeah,
you're right. But there are blocks where it is just the uniform of the trailer is always there. It's like this is who you are for 2 episodes.
And the costume designers, like all the costumes are kind of a hybrid of 100 years ago and now, aren't they? Like the fashion is very unique, right? Yeah.
Well, I think the first season of the show, they were more true to the time, and then as it evolved into something on the Hallmark network, it was about a feel good type of period piece where of course they borrow things for sure from 1920. But, some of those women, the hair on that show is like, come on. I mean, it just looks so nice. There's no way anybody was looking that good, So
there's not
I
a lot
bug
of
Jack all the time, too. We would just I bug him all the time because he's got the blonde highlights. And I'm like, oh, yeah? Is that 1920s? Your precious blonde locks.
I've spoken with a couple of your castmates, Kevin Smith and Pascal Hudden. Those two are pretty funny, right? They must keep things light on the set, I would think, eh?
Yeah, they're great. They have a really great partnership, and they kind of, from what Kevin's told me, because they were both on the show before I was there, but they brought him on to be her love interest, and then they just kind of saw this instant connection, and not only like the characters, but both of them as people also, are very on the same wavelength, and they play off each other so well. And they're a big favorite. Actually, Pascal's got quite a bit of stuff this season. She's really going through it. I don't know where we are or where people are listening at this point, but I mean, she is.
I think we're about
a baby.
Oh my goodness! Okay, so we're about halfway through season 10. And could you talk? I know you don't want to give anything away, but just in general terms, what are some of the storylines for season 10?
Well, I mean, where we are right now, the big one was Rosemary's Baby, the movie, and what's happening on the show. But yeah, Rosemary just had the baby, and it was a bit of a labored birth. It really brought the character of Lee and Rosemary together. We're seeing there is the sprinklings of, I guess I would say which I've talked about before, the hot springs are the new attraction that is starting to bring tourists in. And of course, and when new people come into the town, they bring points of views and stories, and some of it could be troubling, and maybe some of it is. And Lindsay, our new showrunner this season, has done a really good job of, if you go back and watch it from, at the end of season 10 to the beginning, like the things that have been sprinkled in all connect up to a climax of what season 10 is. Like I know I can see it because I know where we're going. I've seen these things kind of slowly happen, but let's just say, these hot springs are bringing in certain people who might not just want to enjoy them like tourists, maybe want to make some money off of them. And we've got this mysterious blonde woman that's come into the show, who's caught the eye of Bill, played by Jack Wagner. And, there might be a little bit more to her story than what appears.
Well, there you go. We've teased season 10. Listen, and part of your tenure on the show, you were there right in the dark days of the pandemic. Was it?
Oh, yeah.
Was it a bit easier because the show is large? A lot of it takes place outside. Did that make the production any easier, or were you guys being measured with long sticks so many feet away? And was it still pretty tricky?
Yes to the rules that kind of came in with that. I will say too, for our show, it is wild to be part of a show that has survived so many, I guess, hiccups or things that would kill many other shows. Like when we joined, both, I say we, I think like, Chris and I and Kayla all kind of came on the same season. And before that, their lead guy was just killed off. So that's a big thing, right? And then we come on, and then that season, the news broke with what happened with Lori. And then, Hallmark ended her employment. So then they had to reshoot all of 6, which was just insane. And again, survived that. Yeah. And then we get into COVID, and we were one of the few shows that were allowed to go up because of the protocols that were kind of put into place. We did everything that any other show is kind of going, there's rigorous testings and masks and, all the stuff that at the time, you're like, these are the rules and this is what you do. Yeah. And we followed them, and we were lucky that we were able to shoot, and we never went dark because of it. And then now we're in a strike, and, we still the producers were able to continue the show. And we're incredibly lucky that we're shooting right now in the middle of a SAG strike. Now, as a Canadian, and most people are Canadian on that show, it doesn't affect, the majority of us, but there are a few that are SAG, and, they were granted an exception, I think, because it's an all Canadian show.
Yeah. Erin, for example, is American, right? Krakow.
Yes. Yeah. And Jack. And they were able to kind of, plead a case to SAG, and we're just very lucky that we're able to kind of keep going. And that is a miraculous thing for this show that, like, since I've joined, it almost feels like every year something comes along that could take the thing down, and it still continues, survives, and grows.
And it's not like under the best of circumstance, it's easy to make a TV show, right? I mean,
exactly.
It's hard.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, the fact that it has the success that it does, and I think it does because there's nothing like it there's no real competition for a show like this, because this is the only type of show that there is. And if people want this is where they come to watch it. Yeah. And that's why I think it's kind of survived for so long, and then, we've got a very hardcore fan base, the Hardys, that have fallen in love with the characters, and, they want to see where everyone's going. And, one thing too about kind of having new showrunners come along and they take it in different directions, or, they surprise people and go different ways. So it's, this season, there's a lot of that. So it's going to be interesting at the end.
I've seen it firsthand when I do a podcast involving When Calls the Heart. It's among the most listened to. Like, the fans are very loyal, and they talk to each other, and so it's wonderful. You mentioned Kayla Wallace, as Fiona Miller. I understand congratulations are in order to
Thank you. Yes, and to her. Come on.
Of course.
No, but mainly to me. Yeah. Yes, I'm very lucky. I duped her. She said yes. It's been great. We've been really just kind of enjoying being engaged, and it's I mean, between us and everybody that's listening, it's the best thing that happened for me that joined the show.
Great. That's
Kayla.
Great.
Yeah.
What's that like? I presume you had not met her before to fall in love with a co-star and then get engaged.
I stalked her for several years before, and then I knew she was going to be on the show, and then I was like, okay, now's my time. No, Yeah, no, it was lovely because we were friends, for so many years before things moved into a different territory, and we really kind of built a strong relationship. And yeah, it's been really great, really lovely.
That's great. Well, congrats. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
Now, I like to order a couple of. Oh, wait! First of all, we haven't talked about all your Hallmark movies and things too, right?
Oh man,
yeah.
All right, those things.
How many have you done?
I don't know. I lost count. I honestly, I don't know. A handful, a plethora. I don't know. Maybe 7, maybe 8.
That's wonderful. They used to have I'm sure they still do, the Hallmark channel down in when the TV critics meet in Pasadena. They would have this giant event.
Oh, I was there.
Yeah,
I was there. The TCAs. We did it one year in Pasadena. The Pasadena one was pretty incredible. But the first year I got invited to that, it was in the hills in Los Angeles, and it was at Jack Warner's old house. I mean, one of the Warner Brothers, right? If not one of the most important Warner Brothers, but at Jack Warner's 1930s mansion.
Wow!
And it was amazing, and that was my first time there. And I think John Voight was there, which is pretty wild, and Patrick Duffy, who later I did a movie with him, and he's great. But I just finished watching the Ryan Murphy's OJ. They did that American Crime Story with OJ,
which is fantastic,
amazing, incredible, and really, really great. Sarah Palsy and the house that they used for OJ's house was that Jack Warner house. God. When I was there, I was like, I just finished watching this, and I'm kind of in OJ's house. It's kind of, this is kind of cool. It's not really his house, but in the TV show it was. But we were there, and then I think the next year was at Pasadena, and then they always do a big. They really throw a good party for the TCA, or they did. I guess it's kind of slowed down now, but for the first few years, those TCAs were pretty incredible.
Yeah, no, I've been to several of them, and you'll never meet so many Canadians in Pasadena than you will at the Hallmark event, right?
Yeah. No, and it's lovely. It's a good time.
It's a real boon to Canadian actors and actresses and everybody else. So it's a great gathering. All right. Well, listen, I want to thank you for your time. You've been very patient and generous here. I always wrap these up with 3 questions about television. First of all, what are you watching? Is there something now that you're streaming that you love that you just don't miss?
Well, I mean, right now, so we just finished The Bear, and I think that is some of the greatest television right now. I think, I don't know if you've watched it, but have you seen it?
Yeah, pretty intense show, right? Oh,
amazing. But there's an episode called Forks, which was in the back half of the second season. That was just what they did with story. I mean, the actor. It was his cousin, or it wasn't his real cousin, but the guy that plays cousin. It was kind of his redemption story, and what they did in 35 minutes, essentially, was just. I felt like it was just so amazing to watch that character transform, and for the better too. It was just an uplifting episode, because specifically before that, the episode before was that hour and a half one with the dinner with Jamie Lee Curtis as well.
Right.
Oh, incredible. Yes.
Yeah.
And right now, Kayla and I the fun show we like to watch right now is Only Murders in the Building.
Oh my God. We're glued to it here. I just watched the last episode. And
we haven't seen it yet. We haven't, because it came out on Tuesday, right? Tuesdays is the new
Tuesday. So we were out of town and we just came back and watched Tuesdays, but which is a really cool romantic episode. It's what a perfectly produced show, right? It's just the music, everything is so wonderful on it. It's lovely. Yeah,
and the guy. I mean, you've got Martin Short and Steve Martin and Selena Gomez, and then but Meryl Streep, honestly, you kind of forget, because I haven't seen her in anything for a little while, and then you're just I listened to this podcast recently. It was Conan O'Brien's podcast, and he had both Martin. Did you hear Martin?
Yep.
And they were talking about Meryl Streep, and I think she said something like, "We're all so lucky to be here," and then the producer of the show said, "Yeah, we are," and they're like, "No, that's her first line."
Right.
She's just so good that they're like, "No, she's in it.
Yeah.
She's acting right."
Yeah, the acting is so natural. They threw everybody, but yeah. Now the other thing is, when you were a youngster growing up in where did we say Kincardine?
Yeah.
Was there a favorite show that you would race home from school, or what was your favorite show do you remember as a?
I am a massive Simpsons fan, and I'm talking like early, like 91 to like 96. You know, kind of the first 6 seasons.
Yeah.
It built my humor. It built. It really impacted my life, the early seasons of The Simpsons. And that was, my brother and I would not miss an episode. I think, and my parents originally didn't let us watch it. And then, you know, because I guess they heard things and like, oh, you can't watch The Simpsons. And then Dad was just kind of like, well, I wonder like why. So he kind of sat down and watched an episode with us, and he was just like laughing the whole time. He was like, this is a hilarious show. Right. So then, you know, my father, my dad, and my brother and I would always watch it. Yeah.
My kids, Dan and Katie. Katie's 33, and Dan is 30. So when they were born, I forced them to watch The Simpsons. I just thought it was like the smartest show on television, right?
Absolutely incredible! Like Kayla wasn't a big Simpsons person, but you know, like they're on Disney now, so I'll watch them kind of when I'm working out or something like that, or I got to do like a run. And I'll come back and I'll replay something like, "Gotta see this joke! It's so funny! It's delivered so well." Yeah, it is. It's such a smart show.
When my son Dan was like 8, he came running into the room. Dad, there's a guy on TV. He sounds just like Mayor Quimby. And it was Kennedy. It was
John F. Kennedy.
You know, and I told that story to Matt Groening at one of the press tours at the TCA, and all he said, he looked at me in the eye and he goes, "I'm sorry. I apologize." Anyway, now last question: do you have a favorite all-time TV theme song?
TV theme song. Do you know movie theme song? My favorite theme song of all time is the Christopher Reeve Superman theme song. That was the theme song when I was a kid. Like playing with action figures, John Williams. Of course. That whole first Superman movie. I mean, Superman 1 and 2 we watched all the time, but that is my favorite cinematic theme song. But I'm trying to think for. Do you know the one that I would really? My dad watched Star Trek, and when I remember the Deep Space Nine Star Trek themes, I love that. Like it had the trumpet, and I guess very John Williamsy as well. Yeah. But I remember really liking that one as well. Very epic, you know. It was just like a space station and stuff like that. But my dad was a big Trekkie, so. I was bored to tears sometimes with that show, but the opening was pretty great. You
look like you could easily step into the superhero roles. Is that something you aspire to ever, a Marvel or DC?
I wouldn't say no. If anybody ever asked, I would not say no.
There you go. All right.
I'd make it happen. Yeah.
Well, they're doing all right, those films.
They make a good chunk of change.
Yeah, no kidding. Listen, Kevin, thank you so much for your time and continued success with When Calls the Heart. It's season 10 is on right now on Super Channel and on Hallmark as well.
And we're shooting 11 right now.
That's fantastic. The 11th season, my goodness. So you're at the 100 episode mark, I think, aren't you?
We're past the 100th episode mark. Yeah, we must be at about 100. I mean, what we're shooting right now is probably 112, 113.
Amazing. Well, incredible. Continued success there, and with every other show that you do that has heart in the title, is doubtless to be coming up next.
Exactly. Thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Kevin McGarry's pick as his all-time favorite TV theme song is a little show we call Star Trek. It ran briefly in the 60s. You may have heard of it. Originally scored under the title Where No Man Has Gone Before, the instrumental was composed by radio, TV, and film orchestrator and arranger Alexandra Courage. Series creator Gene Roddenberry boldly and hastily wrote some seldom heard lyrics, which enabled him to grab half the music publishing royalties. Talk about a Klingon. Thanks as always to producer Phil Hong for running everything through his amazing audio blender. My thanks as well to the many publicists who arrange for the guests to appear each week on these podcast episodes. Special thanks this week to Super Channel's Kimberly Ball. Big thanks to our sponsors, Hollywood Suite, Paramount Plus, CTV, and Super Channel. Are you enjoying our funky new theme song and the incidental music? Hats off to my second favorite band, the Crispy Critters, especially BJ Del Conte and Paul Boudra, for the music they recorded years ago for a little film I made with Pat Bullock called Varsity Blues. Finally, thanks to you, listener, and if you enjoyed this episode, please favor us with a like or a review. I'm Bill Brio. Thanks for listening.